university campuses around the world, London, Australia. What's happening? Chanting in Australia, about gas chambers and, for Jewish people. What is happening on our college campuses? What is happening among the Democratic Party? Some Harvard students now are scrambling to finally rescind their support of their vile letter, actually blaming the victim, Israel, for the brutal Hamas terror attacks. Not everyone disagrees with them. 2024 presidential candidate, former Harvard professor Cornel West said the students were largely right, but they lack nuance. He joins us now with reaction along with attorney, also Harvard professor Alan Dershowitz is with us. Thank you both for being with us. You always call me Brother Sean. I call you Brother Cornel. I'm not that happy with you tonight.
Then we can talk about why
because we have 31 groups from Harvard. Harvard's supposed to be, I always thought, the top of the top. To get into Harvard, what an accomplishment, what an achievement, what academic excellence you must show, a cut above everyone else. And 31 student groups blaming Israel, blaming the victim. And your answer to this is they are largely right. Hamas that murdered children, Hamas that murdered innocent people.
What I said, though, brother.
Okay, they are largely right, but lacking nuance.
No, I didn't say lack nuance. That's the title of the piece.
Okay.
My actual words were, I'll just be very honest.
I got it here in front of me.
The words were that Israel's policies of war crimes and collective punishment against Palestinians.
I'll read it to you. Israel and the United States
Hamas must take responsibility for killing innocent people. Anybody who kills innocent people are engaging in barbaric acts. You said no matter who they are, what color, what nation, and so forth.
Israel and the United States are primarily.
And the United States has supported and enabled.
You explain to this audience. I want you to explain how is Israel and the United States responsible for beheading 40 children? How?
I'm talking about the context. 545 Palestinian children died in August 2004. Not one American said a word. I believe a Palestinian baby has the same value as an Israeli baby. So when you have that kind of vicious hatred and revenge, you get response of hatred and revenge. They are all wrong. They're all war crimes. They're all to be condemned. But you cannot simply look at this particular moment without the larger backdrop of an ugly occupation and the ugly attacks chronically against Palestinians.
So I have a question for you guys. When is Sean Hannity going to get his Facebook page pulled? When is he going to get his Instagram page pulled? Because he repeated a rank lie, something that even the Israeli government and the United States government is running away from now. The debunked claims of chopping the head of Israeli babies off. But there's so many lies said there. I want you guys to understand, 2022 was the deadliest year ever for Palestinians. Do you guys know that? Did Sean Hannity tell you that? Is any of these news stations, any of these Zionists, Democrats, Republicans, are they telling you guys that? 2022 was the deadliest year for Palestinians, where they was raiding mosques, forcing people to demolish their own homes, committing in wide-scale ethnic cleansing. So when Sean Hannity says that Israel is a victim, that is a lie. Israel, and we're going to take a lot of heat for the next few months. Israel is a militarized police state. Fam, Israel is a militarized police state where everyone is forced to join the IDF, where they have mandatory military conscription. So how else is the Palestinians supposed to resist their violent occupier? You have BDS, a peaceful movement where we boycott Israeli and people who support Israeli businesses. And that is banned in multiple states, including California, New York, Florida, Missouri. These are states that passed bans against a peaceful protest. You had the Great March of Return, where Palestinians marched in peaceful protest style, and it was mowed down by the Israelis. So what you guys are saying is that Palestinians should die politely. And RBN, we are about to get in trouble. I am about to get in trouble because that is not our position. We are revolutionary blackout. That does not serve our agenda. That does not serve my community to have this idea where we shut up and die because the establishment, we want to protect the established order. We're going to cover this later with the Tim Pool show. Well, that's the position of Tim Pool and the host. Die politely so we can uphold order. I absolutely reject that. And I'm going to get a lot of heat, and I'm going to get in a lot of trouble because of that. So I don't want to hijack this. I'll pass to you, CJ. I just want to make sure I shout this out because we may get in trouble. You guys need to look at other ways to support us. Like look on Patreon, support us via our GoFundMe. JB Font, our RBN brother, is demonetized. Why? Because he told the fucking truth about Israel. He told the reality what's happening instead of people living a fucking fairy tale. Weaponizing pacifism against indigenous people. CJ, we know exactly what people would say in the 1800s at the indigenous people in our country were being genocided. So what happened? There were some Native Americans who said, give me liberty or give me death. Something that white people only care about for white people, right? So they said that a few people fall against the occupiers, and then white people are like, oh my God, look at the Native Americans. They're so violent and barbaric. And then the people, the progressives who weaponized fascism, pacifism, where they was like, oh my God, you Native Americans, you guys need to be more peaceful. You guys need to be more tactical in their approach. And what was the result of that, CJ? Those motherfuckers got genocided. Yeah. In the millions.
And that oh, let me, I got my phone ringing. Let me pause. My phone's ringing. I don't want you to hear that. My phone's ringing. Hold on a second.
Yeah, you can feel free to chime in. I had to start out with fire today. We got to be very quick because we got a guest coming through.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, I'll just let it kind of ring in the background. But what I wanted to say is that this is the reason it's a unique relationship the United States has towards Israel. People, and I'm going to say this every stream that we're talking about this. People have to understand you are looking at if like being a colonizer, an empire, if that is a person, we're at age 85 right now. And then the way the United States looks at Israel is like a 25-year, you spry young chick, you spry young colonizer chick. Look at you in the early. I remember those days when we did that to the Native Americans and the black. This is weird. That's literally what's happening here. This is the reason why do you think the United States don't know that how Israel got there, how Israel was established is not a colonial settler project? You think they don't know that? They know exactly that. This is the reason why they're so understanding when there's a slave revolt. So I'm using language for you to understand. Put it in that context. A slave revolt would be labeled terrorists. What we call slave revolts, terrorists.
Absolutely.
But it doesn't make any sense, but that's exactly what's going on here. And that's why it's so important. I'll bring it back up the debate, and whenever you want to get it started back. Now, to your point, Nick, you mentioned you gave a comparison of people who were kind of milquetoast. There was a killing of the natives, and then there was people who were milquetoast. Well, let's do this, and then it was genocide. So that's sort of how I'm looking at this interview with Cornel West, because he is great, far greater than anybody they let on mainstream cable news talk about this, advocating for Palestinians. But he still has a blind spot. And that's that social democratic blind spot of critique that you don't have the ability to answer some of their questions effectively. So you look weak in the answer because you're not full-throated with your analysis, radical analysis and radical change needed. You kind of have a radical analysis, but the radical analysis to what needs to be changed is still kind of soft because you're still benefiting from the system. And you're still allowed in these places, and you still want to be allowed. So you really can't go at their pockets in the way that somebody like you and I can do. Go ahead.
That's such a great point, CJ. I'm gonna get in trouble if I'm ever on Tim Pool and Fox News, because these people are doing the thing that the United States want them to say and do to justify their genocide, where they say, oh, well, I condemn Hamas.
Right.
I condemn the United States of America and the failed project of Zionism, which failed in their core tenet of protecting Jewish people. The United States is funding the Israeli state and allowing them to commit a genocide against Palestinians and radicalizing them to the point where they have no choice of armed resistance. So how the fuck am I, a taxpayer to the United States, funding the genocide against the Palestinian people, going to condemn them during their resistance? That is not our right, especially since Israel set the terms of engagement, fam. So Israel killed Palestinian kids, Palestinian civilians, so Palestinians are going to match that rule of engagement. This is grown-up talk. You notice how none of these Zionists talk like grown-ups. They fucking children. Palestinians have every single right to resist their occupier. So I don't condemn Hamas. I don't. I condemn Israel. I condemn the United States. Israel is out of compliance with international law. This is what you say when you're on Sean Hannity. You know, you guys know the only reason why Israel is not prosecuted as the criminal war state that they are is because the United States uses veto power.
Veto power. Mm-hmm.
Do they ever tell you that? And I'm supposed to be sympathetic to this criminal regime? Get the fuck out of here. I'm going to get in trouble very soon because I will not ever give an inch to genocidal Zionists. And I will praise Dr. Cornel West because I'll be negative then positive, right? Because I think he needs to be harder and he needs histy motherfuckers. But you guys see the difference between Dr. West and RFK Jr.? Well, RFK Jr., he goes on Fox News. He want to get along with all these motherfuckers. So at least Dr. Cornel West came on to correct the record. He didn't do it the way that I want him to, but it's good to have these people on to push back against Palestinian lifestyle. I will give him props on that. Right. But with that said, I think he should be stronger. Yeah. I don't want to be all the way negative. They're positive what he's doing here, but he needs to be stronger. And if you're not viciously, violently pushing back on these talking points the way I do, match their energy, because I fucking dare Robbie to come at me the energy he came at Bree, fam. I'll execute him like I did on Venezuela real quick. Real quick. You guys think you have the moral high ground as you supporting a genocidal military police state? I'll fucking bring it on. Bring it on. Go ahead, CJ.
Nick, because you would come with facts. Facts is the only thing that cut down emotional arguments.
Yep.
But it's going to go one way. Either it's going to make him more emotional because he's losing the battle. You get what I'm saying? So he becomes even more emotional, or he just going to give up like he did last time he gave up.
Me on the show, my tweets is going viral because I'm unapologetically standing for Palestine right now. And people see my tweets, but none of these motherfuckers invite me on, CJ, right? None of these motherfuckers are even trying to challenge me. These Zionists are just blocking. They can't deal with my heat. Come at me like that, Robbie. Come at me like this, Sean Hannity. Pretend you have the moral high ground on this issue as you were silent when the regime that you're apologizing for was executing Palestinian babies, executing Shireen Abdul Akleh, an acclaimed journalist, an Israeli sniper, shot her in the head. The Israelis killed so many UN peacekeepers that the UN in 2014 sent essentially a deceased and assist letter to Israel begging them to stop killing UN people. You know how Israel responded? Fuck you, we're about to kill some more UN people. And they killed more UN people in their invasion of Gaza today. So go ahead, get angry at me, Sean. Get angry at me, Robbie. I fucking dare you. Go ahead, let's continue.
Yeah, let's see how much of this we get through.
Left wing.
By the way, we do have a guest that's coming in about 20 minutes or so. So just to announce that.
Anti-Semitism running rampant on university campuses around the world, London, Australia. What's happening? Chanting in Australia, about gas chambers and, for Jewish people. What is happening on our college campuses? What is happening among the Democratic Party? Some Harvard students now are scrambling to finally rescind their support of their vile letter, actually blaming the victim, Israel, for the brutal Hamas terror attacks. Not everyone disagrees with them. 2024 presidential candidate, former Harvard professor Cornel West said the students were largely right, but they lack nuance. He joins us now with reaction, along with attorney Also, Harvard professor Alan Dershowitz is with us. Thank you both for being with us. You always call me Brother Sean. I call you Brother Cornel. I'm not that happy with you tonight.
Then we could talk about why
because we have 31 groups from Harvard. Harvard's supposed to be, I always thought, the top of the top. To get into Harvard, what an accomplishment, what an achievement, what academic excellence you must show, a cut above everyone else. And 31 student groups blaming Israel, blaming the victim. And your answer to this is they are largely right? Hamas that murdered children? Hamas that murdered innocent.
That's the part where you say the criminal police state that is only protected by the United States is not a victim when they are in an apartheid regime that has committed crimes which led to last year being the most deadly year in history of Palestine. Like, why are we framing them as the victim? That's how I would respond there. Like, why are we framing this police state, this militarized state as the victim here? But let's continue.
That's what I said, though, brother.
Okay, that's what they are largely right, but lacking nuance.
No, I didn't say lack nuance. That's the title of the piece.
Okay.
My actual words were, I'll just be very honest.
I got it here in front of me.
The words were that Israel's policies of war crimes and collective punishment against Palestinians.
I'll read it to you. Israel and the United States are primarily responsibility
for killing innocent people.
Yeah, that's on purpose.
And even though Dr. Cornel West could go harder, you guys got to realize Sean Hannity is so scared he won't let this motherfucker talk.
Right.
Just like Anderson Cooper as well. And that's another factor. That shows how weak the Zionist argument is. Like Malcolm X said, there is no intellectual or legal argument for Israel. They're using white phosphorus on Palestinian people right now, a war crime. They have a blockade of electricity, food, and fuel, a war crime. So where's your legal argument? They are out of compliance with international law. There's no legal argument for the state, let alone the morality of it, CJ. Right? You can break it down literally in any level. So you can't let them talk. And that's what he does here. Let's continue.
And and you see it in many interviews, and we've pointed it out. And I'll just name a couple of. Abby Martin, he was an interview. Every time he started to cut to a certain point, she would cut him off. He was with Dana Bash one time. She did the same thing. Anderson Cooper. They can hear where he's going and where he's about to say, oh, it's time to cut this shit off right here. Let me ask a question and interrupt, but let's get back.
Anybody who kills innocent people are engaging in barbaric acts. You said no matter who they are, what color, what nation, and so forth.
Israel and the United States are primarily
the United States have supported and enabled.
You explain to this audience. I want you to explain how is Israel and the United States responsible for beheading 40 children? How?
Let me play this again, and I want to hear how you would answer. We can just do this real briefly. Let's listen.
I want you to explain how is Israel and the United States responsible for beheading 40 children? How?
How, Nick? How would you answer this question if you were Cornel West, knowing that this is bullshit? What would you say?
I would say, Sean Hannity, you need to apologize to your audience for misleading them, because even the IDF, Israel, and the Biden administration had to walk that back because that has been long since debunked. So are you willingly spreading misinformation on your channel, sir? That's how I would respond. Like you willingly spreading misinformation. But let's continue.
Let's see what Cornel says.
I'm talking about the context. 545 Palestinian children died in August 2004.
Now, I need to take this moment, and I promise I'll play it because we're short on time. The reason why this is so important, why this is such a blind spot, think about it, Nick. He just said a mistruth. Let's just say if it's true, though, because it's the same argument whether it's true or not. Let's say if it's true, what you said, it's still the context of the point. But the fact, you see how Cornel West doesn't address what he says? it's an acceptance of a lie or acceptance of a framing.
Yeah, you need to swap that shit down.
That anybody who's on the side of Israel is going to say, see, he don't even say nothing. He just says whataboutism. And then they're able to just label this whataboutism. When you should say something like, no, Sean, the beheadings are bad. The beheadings by people who are enslaved is a different context. You see? Would you say slaves that are trying to revolt during slavery who behead slave owners? What would you call that? Is that terrorism to you? You see how you can flip that shit right on them and use slavery. Use that context. But let's get back before we run out of time here.
For not one American said a word. I believe a Palestinian baby has the same value as an Israeli baby. So when you have that kind of vicious hatred and revenge, you get response of hatred and revenge. They are all wrong. They're all war crimes. They're all to be condemned. But you cannot simply look at this particular moment without the larger backdrop of an ugly occupation and the ugly attacks chronically against Palestinians.
Those are not your words. Largely right. Israel and the United States are primarily responsible for this attack.
Right there, CJ. I'm like, bro, I'm saying it right fucking now. He's like, that's not the word you said right in this. I'm like, I'm saying it right now. I'm saying it right now. The fuck you doing deflecting the point to what you were in this piece, in this statement? You said it. Well, I'm on your show right now. We have a chance to have a conversation now. Address my point. Let's continue. Now I'll respond right there.
Professor Dershowitz.
Well, I complained when Palestinian children were killed, but I explained why they were killed. Here is one of the leaders of Hamas. To the Palestinian people.
He explained why they were killed. So he's saying, I did bring up Palestinian deaths. And then I explained why they were killed. So you're about to give us a good explanation why the Palestinian kids were killed. And he thinks this is a good thing. The minds of these people, man. Let's listen.
Why they were killed. Here is one of the leaders of Hamas. For the Palestinian people, death has become an industry. The elderly excel at this, and so do the children. This is why we have formed human shields of the women and the children. Hamas is the ones responsible for the killing of Palestinian children. Also, Hamas has a term. It's called the CNN strategy. And the CNN strategy is...
They can't leave Gaza. Israelis can leave. They don't have to be a participant of violent colonialism. Palestinians in Gaza cannot leave. The parents who have children there cannot take their children out of the area. There's only one willing participant, and that is Israel, that is pulling the trigger on the children that they kill. But then he blames the Palestinian parent for the inability for them leaving. Unbelievable. Let's continue. Unbelievable.
Unreal.
Unreal.
Seduce Israel into killing Palestinian children by using...
Seduce Israel into killing Palestinian children.
Oh, my God.
Seduce them, Nick.
Oh, my God.
There's some high heels and the slit and the skirt. You seducing them to kill
What the fuck?
But taking somebody's homeland isn't seducing them to do what they did, what Hamas did.
What the fuck?
Using them as human shields. Then parade the bodies out on CNN, and you'll see what happens. People like Cornel West will engage in crocodile tears, blame it on Israel when...
Are the kids dead or not? What do you mean crocodile tears? Are they dead? So basically, Alan, I don't know if you can hear it, everybody. He is saying Palestinian kids aren't worth anything because he's saying, yeah, they put them in front. It's their fault. And then you're seducing them into killing them. You see how none of the blame is on anyone who's holding the gun, who's holding the bomb. But let's continue here.
She shouldn't have.
And the entire blame is on the Palestinians, Hamas, for using their children as human shields, and then using their children as shields to permit the killing of Israeli children.
What is Hamas's charter?
Yeah.
I have the same outrage when Palestinian babies are killed, when Jewish babies are Israeli babies. I want
Alan said it shouldn't be the same. He's gonna say that. After you comment, you're gonna listen what he says right here.
I'll let play.
Oh yeah, you might want to hear just to include it in what you say here. Let me just rewind it a second.
Shouldn't be the same outrage. I want you to have the same indignation when Palestinians are killed.
Not when they're killed. Not when they're killed by Palestinians. You can't make a moral comparison when Nazi.
Not when they're killed by Palestinians. You don't think they apply this sort of logic to black people when they go black on black crime? We don't care about their lives. Not when they're killed by blacks. This is how they think of us.
Killed in the bombings of Dresden. I didn't have the same comparison when Jewish kids were put in gas chambers and crematoriums. You're a professor of theology. Don't you understand the moral difference between deliberately murdering a kid and having collateral damage because there are human shields? You're running for president of the United States. What would you do? Let me tell you. Let me ask the question.
Okay.
What would you do if if terrorists were firing at American children in America and the terrorists were hiding behind Palestinian children? Would you allow the killing of Americans to continue, or would you go and get the terrorists, even if it meant possibly collateral damage on Palestinians? What would you do?
I'll tell you exactly what I would do. First, truth and morality tend to be two casualties in any context of war. I would want to tell the American people the truth. I would tell them what the context is, how we found ourselves in this situation. And I would not jump for a military invasion and a genocidal attack on a
genocidal attack on Gaza. No. It's not a genocidal attack when you're killing terrorists.
This is like Warsaw, 1943. Where do they go?
Where do they go? Yeah. Let me tell you where they go. They go to the UN.
You heard everything that Alan said, Nick, and that's the reply that Cornel. You see how he doesn't address the nonsense framing that the emotional framing overly propagandized framing horrendous sort of atrocities that you're trying to portray that is happening to Jews. He never addresses it. He never applies pushes back on that context. That is the weak spot of social democracy. They don't really have an answer for that question. They need to have an answer. We would have an easily. Ajama would have an answer like this, Nick. Mm-hmm. Margaret Kimberly would have an answer like this. Go ahead, Nick, if you were going to chime in here.
There's only one country here. Well, Palestine not a country because Israel stole their sovereignty.
That is true.
But there's only one people here that is out of compliance with international law. And that is Israel. Palestine has the legal right, based on the UN Charter, to resist their occupiers. And this claim that you are using, Alan Dershowitz, that Palestinians have human shields, it's the exact opposite. And I remember people got mad at me, but they can't disprove it. As I said, every single Israeli adult is a participant because they have to be part of mandatory military service. Israeli children, just like Palestinian children, are victims because children can't consent. Children can't consent on where they live, so they are victims. Meanwhile, Palestinian children can't leave, especially in Gaza. They can't leave. You know, the average life expectancy in Gaza is 18, so most of these kids don't grow up.
Jesus Christ.
So Israeli children, their parents can always allow them to leave the apartheid state. So who's actually using the children as human shields? It'll be Israel, because they are unwillingly forcing these children to live in a settler colonial state, a state where Zionism has failed. Zionism, and the promise of Zionism, is to have a state where Jews can be safe, a Jewish safe haven. That has failed. There is nowhere that is more unsafe for Jews than the state of Israel. But you guys let your children live there? So who's actually using human shields here? Let's continue. And I see Alex in the background.
Yeah, just give us a couple more minutes. Yeah, a couple more minutes. We'll play this, and then we'll get our guest in. Thankfully, he is here on time. Love it when our guests are here on time. So thanks for being here on time, sir. Let's play a little bit more. here.
UN is keeping Gaza to they go to no. The UN has places in Gaza. They go to the Rafah crossing.
UN people have been killed in the last few days.
They go to Egypt. They go. Wait a minute. Let me make another thing clear. Gaza City is very dense, but Gaza itself, the Gaza Strip, there's lots of room. The Israelis have said, get out of Gaza City, go to Rafah. Go to Khan Yunis. Go to other places. And you know what Hamas is saying?
With no water, no food, no electricity.
You know what Hamas is saying? Hamas is saying, don't go.
Oh, I'm not here to defend Hamas.
Well, you are here.
I'm not defending Hamas.
Wait a minute.
You see that? What did you say about Hamas? I'm going to bring it down because it's the same topic, so we can bring the guests in and just continue on Israel. But you see that? I'm not going to defend Hamas. Why not? What did you say about Hamas earlier, Nick? You said anything. You asked the question. Oh, go ahead. I'll let you say it. Go ahead.
There's debate within the Palestinian community about Hamas, and they will continue to have that debate. That debate is not for us to have. That is for the Palestinians to debate among themselves. I will not ever condemn people's legal right to armed resistance. And that is what Hamas engages in armed resistance. It is not our position to throw Hamas under the bus. They are following the rules of engagement that Israel set. Israel targets civilians, Israel bomb and kill their children. So of course Hamas or anyone else will match the rules of engagement that Israeli set. Correct?